Welcome again to another session of Mazungumzo with Dr. Gicharu, where we try to understand what Martin Heidegger was saying in Being and Time. Today we are continuing with part 27, and as usual I try to bring, some music to bring some life into the program. Music makes the medicine go down, And this time I have a Swahili song called Rafa or Raha, Mlango wa Raha. Mola akitujalia. Mola akitujalia. Tutafunga safari ya kwenda Rafa. Tafunga safari mpaka Rafa. Kubusu, kuona, kugusa mlango wa Rafa. Mlango wa Raha. Raha ni kiungo cha upendo. Raha kitomvu mama Afrika. Hakuna kitu muhimu humu duniani kama upendo. Kabla ya yote Mola akaumba upendo. Mlango wa Raha, kitomvu mama Afrika. Mlango wa Raha sio mlango wa gore, mlango wa lana, mlango wa wasiorudi. Asha, mlango wa Raha ni mlango wa Raha. Raha ni kiungo cha upendo. Raha kitomvu mama Afrika. Hakuna kitu muhimu duniani kote kushinda upendo. Kabla ya yote Mola akatuumbia upendo. Tutafunga safari kwenda Rafa kuona mlango wa Raha. Mlango wa Raha. Mlango wa Raha. Uko Rafa. Mlango wa Raha. Mlango wa Raha. Now with that short piece of music, now we start continuing with our discussion of Martin Heidegger, Being and Time. The other part, which I also call part 27, we actually use David Brooks' book, The Social Animal. Beautiful book, came out in 2011. It helps us to understand being and time with all the terminologies you have in that book. David Brooks, I would suggest for those people who want to understand the theory of being and time brought in a novel form, fiction form, you should visit David Brooks' book. Now let us continue. Dasein. This possibility is also in Heideggerian language called moment of vision. Moment of vision is like when academics discovered the law of flotation and he shouted, Eureka! Eureka! He has discovered it. That's a moment of vision. Also, Martin Heidegger brings it in discussing existence. Human beings are involved in innovation or bettering their life. There's nothing behind human life rather than improving on daily life of the people. You might say something else, but care, resolution, it all comes to innovation. Because you can see like artificial intelligence, how much it's helping us right now. That's it. That's a new paradigm. It's with us in the post-modernity. And it's gonna create wows, phenomena, and it's gonna change people's lives. That's another story. The possibility is also in Heideggerian language called moment of vision, innovation, of new entities which allow Dasein a comfortable existence. Entities, AI is an entity. AI, artificial intelligence, cybernetics, robots, these are entities. They have to be uncovered from being present at hand. They're gonna come and become ready at hand. You can utilize them. But before you do that, they are hidden somewhere in the environment until people with vision and strategy and the know-how they bring out from being unknown to the known. That's how things are discovered. Authentic histology in this situation deprives today its characteristics of the present. As Martin has it, histology is critical of today. This can be called a critique of the present. You can't innovate if you don't critique. You cannot be creative if you don't critique what you're reading. Criticism is a process in innovation. It plays an important part. And as we said, history in understanding the past and also the present and improving the future, histology is so important. Precedent can only be understood through history, not through universal laws. And that is Drucker. I said in the last program, Drucker. He's a great scholar in the study of leadership. Drucker. You can visit him. He has written several articles and books. The existential temporal meaning is actually making present. And this is made up of a traveling pointer as a pointer of the clock moves keeping time. Existential temporality is actually time, is a tempo of life, and it is kept by the ticking of the clock. Existential temporality is the action of the moving of the clock. And as that goes on, people are involved in creativity. That's a very interesting point. This making present temporalizes itself in the ecstatical, in the ecstasy of things. That is where making present temporalizes itself. And that state of making present is actually the self outside of self for itself. And that's consciousness. You are looking at in you what is in your unconscious and the conscious, and you're churning them around for ideas, trying to invent something might be you're looking for. You want to come with something new in the nanotechnology, in the minutest life of matter. The nanotechnology has become so important. In artificial intelligence, the nanotechnology is what is driving it. Because as we continue to explore things in their tiniest elements, in the tinism, in the smallness, that's where the greatest knowledge dwells. Because once you can look at things in their tiniest situation or matter, then the more you can utilize them effectively, because they can fit in a small piece of chip with so much information. That's another story. Retention, its meaning in this analysis is control of something. Retention, when you retain something in the subconscious, you're in control of something. For you to preserve something in the unconscious, because you will bring it out in your innovations. When you're in deep thought, you will bring what you have retained in your unconscious, and you utilize it in the conscious to create something. And that is what the element of making present. Making present is actually a moment of vision, the ecstasy, the temporality, the temporality. Making present is made up of retaining earlier, awaiting later. The two are horizontally open. In the Edmund Husserl, in the philosophy of phenomenology, the horizon is in the realm of histology. The horizon, when people did not know much about irrigation, that is a horizon. It's like an era. And you reflect it past. You reflect in the past, in your subconscious, in your unconscious. And that what is in the past did not work properly is what you're trying to improve on. You bring it to the present. So you can see the past and the present are interrelating. They are correlated. There's a correlation. You can never invent if you don't do that dance. And that's temporizing. And history is in play also. Temporizing is an aspect of historizing. It's a very, very interesting concept. It makes you start to see, you see Heidegger in a very different light. Time is what is counted. Example follow. Now, time. The nows, every now as nows, forthwith be no longer nows, and nows which have just been not yet now. Because you see, once I am talking and the time is passing, something starts to dwell in the past. And sometimes I do the temporizing dance. I can go and look at the future when we have flying cars. I have no limit. Thinking has no limitation. I can now start discussing, the Jason's program. It's a cartoon, Jason's, where the cars is a kids program, but it shows us the future. It's a very old program, the Jasons, and it shows flying cars. Human thinking has no limits. It can cross borders. It can go into the future. That's why they are futurists. They say in 2050, there will be no famine. Everybody will have food, enough food to eat. A human being is allowed to project, to retain, and to project and to await. We are awaiting flying cars. They've started to come in. So I just being on the side of equipment of concern, that seems a simple, just a sentence, but it's a mouthful. Being on the side of equipment of concern. A scientist would understand that, somebody who is doing research, he's in that state. Because that thing which he's going to bring out is a link. Might be it's going to improve so many things that we do because we don't do them efficiently. And that is, not doing it efficiently makes it an equipment of concern. It needs to be improved on to make human beings, live a comfortable life, easier life. And you can go back and you will see when they used to have, let's say, for example, before you had a vacuum which can suck the gunk when you're sanding a piece of wood. Nowadays, you have a sander which sucks in the dust. That's a big improvement in the life of a carpenter or a mason. Because you can imagine somebody is sanding something, giving out a lot of dust, and some of it is not very healthy. Now there's a sander which sucks it in. It can vacuum it in. That's a big innovation. Concern is so important in making present, because making present is actually an ecstasy. If you make present, you have innovated something. The Japanese actually call it kaizen. Things come in simple, small drops or increments. Kaizen. Making present, a good translation is kaizen. Because when you remember Thomas Kuhn in a Scientific Revolution, I don't give you the whole title, but that's Thomas Kuhn. He says paradigms come in small bits, increments, very tiny, but so essential. That's what makes us unique, resolute. One makes sure he notices every minute detail taking place so as to be able to discover entities that are proximally around them. That's an important point there in being and time. Proximally around them, because we live just the entities that will make our lives better are just around us. They are our neighbors. But you have to unconceal them, discover them, and bring them out from the world of present at hand to this world of ours, which we're going to start utilizing and making Daseins' life better. Concern also determines the time ecstatical constitution of temporality makes up world time. World time is actually using the sun, looking at your shadow, and you can know it's 2 o'clock, it's noon, it's morning, using the shadow element. That's world time. It's kind of a universal, very circular, very primordial of the past. It is not actually an act of post-modernity, but it is essential. That's where we came from. We came from universal laws, and then we crossed to histology, historicity. The precedence is documented in our history, not in universal laws. I just say that in another piece. And there is a statement Plato called time the image of eternity. Because you can imagine if we didn't have a clock ticking seconds, it'll be very, very, because that's what makes us finite. It's an image of eternity. It lives in our conscious and our subconscious and our unconscious permanently. Then you can see why Plato called it image of eternity. Because it is in everybody. Datability, the data, has an ecstatical foundation. Because in data, when we collect data and research, it is the one which will give us the wow minute, the moment of vision, the eureka, will come from datability, the data you keep to calculate the mean, the mode, the average. Because look at algorithms. Algorithms which have allowed artificial intelligence are all a realm of data. The binary, the two, the 0 and 1, is data. And see what it has done for us. It gave us the pyramids because the 0 and 1 was discovered. It's controversial, but I think in Egypt, when people were building the pyramid, they came up with the 0 and 1, the binary. And, and then some people elaborated them. So when right data is found in research, it brings a sense of joy and excitement. It also has elements of possibilities, insights, and opportunities. Data is creativity exposed, and it is also brings with it inspiration. You're inspired, expectation. At the same time, data could mean innovation and deeper understanding of problem that was there before. Then there is a phrase like leveling off of world time, leveling off of world time. Because when you use shadow to tell time and the sun, the positions of the sun, you are also in your conscious and unconscious states of inner self and outer self. You're actually leveling off that you should do things better. You should live a better life where you don't have to use the sun to tell the time, because it's gonna be cloudy or it's gonna be rainy, foggy, and you will not have sun. And then you cannot tell the time. Then you discover the manual clock, the clock. Now you're getting to improving your life, leveling off. This covering up of temporality, blurred boundaries between cultural and social and economic activities. Because once you cannot tell time properly, then you can't plan properly. You are in a blurred situation. Things are blurry. They are not clear. In a global village, their boundaries tend to overlap. This becomes e-time. Also true of temporality. This could mean standardization of time zones, synchronization of schedules and routines due to being very similar. Also, cultural practices could be impacted in the same way. Temporal experiences tend to move close to each other, erasing the boundaries that made them different before. To individuals and society could have both negative and positive effects. These are in a shortened sentence, so I'll elaborate. It's exactly what I was saying. You live very separate lives when there is no global village. People do things differently in different places when they have not advanced to artificial intelligence. For example, you can outsource jobs when you become computerized. Time, you're keeping time using a clock. You can plan things together. When you are working with outsourcing work, you have a clock. You can tell them, I'll be awake this time, but you might have to stay awake for me to deal with you. So you can plan things better. This is what we are saying in this expression. So we come to what I did not even mention it. We start to come to public time, which originates from temporary discovery, the dance of life, the dance of invasion. That's what temporary, and it creates ecstasy. It creates wow moments, aura. People are excited. Wow, we have landed a shuttle. They have landed a robot on the surface of the moon. They will be able to take photographs. They will be able to conduct research and see what are the factors on the moon. Can we inhabit that environment? That's a wow moment. And that can only be good and possible if we are in public time. We have invented clocks. Temporalizing is primarily futural, goes to its end ecstatically. Ecstasy is a very big element of human existence. Actually, ecstasy, the wow moment, the eureka, the moment of vision when an innovation is gotten, there is always excitement. Temporality of falling of a design. Now, that's also a mouthful. Why and how? World time belongs to design's temporality. This is Heideggerian concept that human existence is tied to temporality of or being in time. You live within time, and everything you discover or explore, uncover, and conceal in your resoluteness, in being intentional, being retentional, it's all a matter of temporality, existence, and there is the aspect of phenomenology. A phenomena has to come for me to be comfortable. World time is the manual clock humans use to govern human activities and structures. I had run a bit faster for myself. I discussed that thing earlier. It schedules all human life. For example, when we can work, eat, or sleep. You see the world time. And it's self-explanatory, but in a Heideggerian world, you just don't take words just like that. They have deeper meaning. At the same time, man addresses his existential concerns using world time. And this allows them to deal with life's possibilities and aspirations. Design's temporality is very much a variable of world time, for it uses it to navigate its existence. It plans, schedules, and organizes its existence within this temporal framework. World time allows Dasein to interpret and project possibilities within it, shaping its own temporal horizons. I mentioned Edmund Husserl, teacher of Martin Heidegger. He is the one who gave Martin Heidegger all ample knowledge that he put down in Being and Time. They disagreed one time, but that was his teacher. The aspect of phenomenology, the history of phenomenology, the philosophy of phenomenology, which Edmund Husserl dealt with. And he's also the one who told us, I think we moved too fast to glorify science. Because you cannot glorify science against human nature. A human person full of empathy, care, conscience, inner voice, considerate before he does anything bad or good. He has to peruse the inner self and how it is going to affect the neighbor, other. So there is this conflict of the inner self and the outer self. But that's what makes us human beings. We must be considerate of our neighbors. Love your neighbor as thyself. The golden rule, very difficult. Design's temporality is directly linked to world time. It allows Dasein to conceptualize how it exists and acts. Its understanding of being is very much tied to this concept. It allows Dasein to see its authentic existence. The true self can only be seen through temporality, and temporality is the dance of time and is a dance of life. Very interesting concept. So leveling up, I kind of touched it. I'm going to kind of deal with it a little bit in depth. Leveling up is a term Martin Heidegger uses. This can be understood through the root of personal growth, development, and the changing of time. Leveling up is the concept of advancement of Dasein's consciousness through learning, experience, and effort. The idea of leveling up is tied to the passing of time. And this happens, there is personal development taking place, increase in maturation, and self-awareness. Each of these changes in advancement can be considered a level. And at the same time, it can be comprehended as an individual's temporal journey or experience. This journey's level can be visualized through one, experiences, reflection on past events, and ability to project into the future. When one is in this journey of bettering the self, it can be termed a journey through the temporal horizon. This in simple language means expansion in awareness of past, present, and future possibilities. At the same time, this behavior sharpens Dasein's conceptualization of time and how it shapes their existence. Understanding of human existence is made more elaborate by the self-understanding, the subtle workings of time, and the huge impact this activity has on their everyday existence. And that is about leveling out. It's actually synchronizing the past, present, and the future. You are leveling them up because you got to think of the work you're doing right now. You're hammering, you're building somebody's shelter. You're actually helping somebody to accomplish Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When you hammer and you're building a shelter, somebody is going to live in it. You're going to better his life. He's not going to live in the cold. So that's an important aspect. That is leveling up somebody's life. And these are important things. Covering up is another term. Covering up of what you did not do yesterday, what you did not innovate yesterday. Your life is miserable right now because you didn't put a very, very insulated shelter and then winter came. You're going to have to cover up for that. There is an ecstatical constitution. This is tied to the concept of ecstatic or ecstasis temporality. This term means being ahead of itself in the future. You see what I told you? You got to try to insulate your shelter during the summer because you saw in the future there's going to be a very severe winter and you're going to need a well sheltered or insulated place to live alongside itself in the present and having been in the past. The covering up is the state of immersion in the thought of the present, especially concerns of the day, distractions, authentic modes of existence. Just the way I said it. This is now we are heading to try and wind up the life of a human being in being and time. Because at the end of everything, we got to address our finiteness. And I keep on repeating that because even Daniel Brooks, in his book, The Social Animal, came out in 2011. Beautiful piece of book. He shows Harold had to address himself to what happens when he's gone. He had to contend that he's finite. Same thing with Erica in the they had to address themselves. They have done all these things in their lives, ups and down, temporality. They have discovered things. Erica discovered that she is good if she helps people form strong companies. She took up leadership. Peter Drucker, that's why I quoted Drucker. Drucker is an expert on leadership. He's the one who said history is more important than universal things that we kind of meet around in our existence. Temporality is the reason for the clock. When California is in the day, Nairobi in Kenya, the time is night. The reason for this difference is their geographical positions. This discrepancy in time is the one which made the clock necessary. I ran faster. I told you that clock allows organization and structuring of time in a systematic and measurable way for Dasein. Temporality is the individual way of understanding time and its influence on one's existence, which involves past, present, and future. Because they are very much, they are continuum. You can't forget your past because you cannot understand very much your present if you don't know your past. Bob Marley, you got to understand where you're coming from and where you're going so that you can be able to address your future. Have you been shortchanged in some ways? Do these things have to be rectified for you to create a life better for yourself and your offspring in the future? Temporality is the individual. Okay, I say that one. Then the temporality is a word that you will keep on coming across as you analyze Heidegger, being and time. Temporality also introduces the aspect of duration, rhythm, and continuity in human existence. So that is why I say it is a dance of life. It's time travel. You're always doing time travel. Thinking when you are a child, you know, the things you went through. Like Erica had a miserable life, kind of challenging. The parents were not concentrating on her as they were supposed to. So she had some things which she did not really enjoy. Sometimes they were short of food. Sometimes they were completely happy and everything was glorious. But there were sometimes they didn't have enough. And there was cultural differences. Sometimes she would try to satisfy the the Chinese side of the family, and sometimes she would try to satisfy the Spanish or Mexican side of the family, and there would be contradiction. So that she developed inner outer contradictions, psychological problems sometimes, which sometimes made her sad, sometimes they made her happy. Uh, uh, Temporality is a clock allows the introduction of precision and order in human existence. Before the invention of the clock, Dasein uses seasons, positions of the sun, and at times the phases of the moon. These methods were at times full of errors and not accurate when it comes to some human activities. Temporality is the condition for discoverability. You discover things as you dance through the dance of life, the ecstatical ecstasies, the past, present, and future hows, wows, and phenomena. You juggle them up, you're juggling them up to see whether you can come with a better computer with a bigger memory, which can create cryptocurrencies. You can mine cryptocurrencies. The human beings can stop using manual physical currencies and go into binary artificial money, which will be quicker to transfer, quicker to use, quicker to invest. It shortens moments of loan applications. That's another story. Discoverability here simply means uncovering or revealing of reality that surround Dasein. Temporality is directly linked to discoverability, for it elaborates. I think I will stop here. I'm running out of recording time in my clock, and then we can continue part 28 later. Dr. Gilbert Gicharu saying ciao ciao until we meet again.